Well, howdy folks, Hellcrex here, and welcome to Mercenary Thoughts from the Inner Sphere, episode 155. And today we're going to be talking about one of those iconic mechs that you see on the battlefield because it's been in production forever and a day, from House Merrick, the Free Worlds League, the Stalker. The Stalker is one of those mechs that can do the job. It has lots of problems when it comes to heat because, as we discussed in the previous time when we were talking about the 30, 25, 30, 39, whatever book you want to look at, of the Stalker, well, people have a tendency to turn this into a walking sauna bath. But in the 3050 era, we have all the wonderful technology to alleviate some of those problems and turn it into a really good assault mech. And it's one of those mechs that I like using on a regular basis in the game, especially in 3050 era, just because it brings a lot of firepower to the table in a, well, let's just say range band way. Alright, the Stalker. 85 tons, it's a 350. It suffers from the infamous problem that 85 tonners plus usually suffer from, is that it's slow. Yes, well, it harkens back to the days of when this mech was, suffering from not having all the good technology during the succession wars. It's slow, methodical, but it's one of those mechs that you didn't have to worry about a lot of problems until it has some good ranged weapons, but it has good weapons in all range bands basically in the game, be it missile weapons or energy weapons. So it wasn't too much of a problem for it, other than that a lot of mech jocks would get in there like, I'm gonna fire every single weapon I have, and then watch it explode from an ammo explosion because they don't know how to regulate their heat. Now, the Stalker, the 5M, has a preful of new additions. House Merc decided to go, hey, we got all this cool stuff, we're gonna throw it on there and just see what we get, see what sticks. Alright, still 353, no jump jets, but then again, jump jets kind of would have been nice on something like this slow, because it helps you with the mobility, getting around over obstacles and stuff, but it doesn't. Has 17 heat sinks, doubles, yes, went from 20 to 17. Obviously, they're going to throw some tonnage, 3 tons someplace, into something different. But with the doubles, now you went from 20 dissipation of heat to 34. 2 thumbs up, yes. Has 232 points of armor, which is more than the previous version, the 3F, which had 216. Now we get into the weapon systems. They're similar to what the original 3F, that book that you always see, but there are some changes, some good, some bad here. Now, we have a LRM-10 in the right arm with a ton of ammo, 2 medium lasers in the right arm, and we have a LRM-10 with ammo in the left arm with 2 more medium lasers in the left arm. Now we have an SRM-6 in the right torso with a ton of ammo, an SRM-6 in the left torso with a ton of ammo, and then they throw in a NARC beacon. Yes, you heard me. A NARC beacon in the left torso with 2 tons of ammo, and in the center torso an ER large laser. So at least they upgraded one of the large lasers to an ER, but they took away its firepower per se by adding on NARC beacon. Yeah. Well, the NARC beacon is one of those things that's good and bad. Now, if a NARC beacon had a range of 21, so you could use it with your LRMs at extreme ranges, that'd be great. But it does not. It's really short range, so you got to get up and close and personal to be able to use it. So your weight, to me, basically a NARC beacon, I like it for what it gives you, but I dislike it because it's sucking up a bunch of tonnage, and that weapon system is not able to be used the way I like it until you're getting close enough. So basically, as soon as you get into SRM 6 range, then the narc beacon becomes something that's useful. And then you could tag, you know, clunk, here you go, you've been attached to you. And now our missiles are going to be get some nice little bonuses to on the cluster table. But until you get close enough, it is sort of wasted tonnage. Now you could have the argument, well, the SRM-6s are the same thing. But yes, I give you that. Until you get in range, they're not useful. But you're using something that can be useful to all missile weapons, and you're running around with an LRM-10s that don't get the benefit. So what would be better is maybe putting Artemis on your LRM-10s. And that's an idea. So then they're able to be used at more range. So but you know, we're talking a little bit of tonnage there. So we got 5 tons, which is that ER large laser that you could have instead of the narc beacon. So you got a mech that sacrificed 8 points of damage out to 19 to add bonuses to when you get within 9. Alright. That's kind of a pet peeve. But, you know, other people, you know, you look at it and go, hey, it's great stuff. Yes, I agree. It's good stuff. I like the narc beacon, but I'd rather have it, you know, on something where it's a little more useful. Because by the time, well, you look at it, the other problem is with the Stalker being a 3-5 mover, it takes it a while to get into range with your short range stuff because it's slow. Unless you're facing opponents that are like moving really fast, like let's say some clan scout type mechs, or even medium mechs for that matter. They're usually pretty fast to begin with, and then they're coming to you. But if you're playing with this is like an assault, you're going to take you a while to get those things into range. So there you go. Now, when you look at this mech, they say that the Stalker suffers from a heat problem. Well, let's just take a look at this. All right, we have a Stalker that can dissipate 34. We got a couple LRM-10s, which is what, 10 heat or 8 heat? I mean, if I do believe. And let's see here. And we got some medium lasers. All right, let's just look at long range firepower. Alright, so we got 12 from the ER large laser, and then, so, yeah, it's not a heat problem out at extreme ranges. So, because those LRM-10s only cause 8 heat altogether, so you're looking at 20. And you can dissipate 34. So, right now, you have a massive surplus of heat dissipation with your long-range weapons. Even if you had, you know, 2 ER large lasers and 2 LRM-10s, you can dissipate, that's 32 heat, and you can dissipate 34. So if you had that, you'd be golden if you know, say you had a 3F that you upgraded, which we're going to talk about. Now, when you get in closer, now you're throwing it, let's say you're in range where you can start tossing that narc beacon into the mix. Because if you're using the narc beacon, obviously you're not going to be worried about probably shooting the LRM-10. So we'll just shut those off right at the moment and look at the other weapon systems. So you got 2 LRM or SRM-6s, there's 8, you got 4 medium lasers, there's 12, there's 20 right there. So now you can throw in the ER large laser, puts you up to 32, and you can just pay 34. So yeah, you're still doing good. You're still golden. You're just not shooting the LRM-10s off, because that's using the LRM-10s is what's going to cause you to go up on the heat scale. And bang for your buck, I'd rather use the medium lasers and the SRM-6s over the LRM-10s in the large laser. All right. Because the odds are you're going to be doing 6 points of heat or 6 points of damage for 4 heat, so it's not really worth it to too many times I've seen guys try to alpha strike with their mechs and just do minimal amounts of damage because, you know, a lot of stuff's going to miss. And you're just cooking yourself for the benefit of maybe getting 6 more, 12 more points of damage possible. Alright, unless the mech is... you got a down mech in front of you that's shut down or something, and you don't have to worry about anybody shooting at you for a while. Yeah, you might want to, you could go up on the heat scale for a turn and then dissipate, but until you can get close enough to kick him in the face or something as you slowly walk forward. Now, so that brings up some interesting questions. What kind of variants do we have out there? Because this mech has a long history, so we're going to see a lot of them. Alright, the 3FB, which was the original one, which has got all the Star League goodies on it, which is the Royal variant of the Stalker. We had an ECM suite on board in the center torso. We had ER large lasers. We had Artemis fire control with LRM-15s. And then there was no SRM-6s, and it had 17 double heatsinks. So that's actually not a bad mech at all. It forgoes a lot of the short range firepower for extended range firepower, because you're throwing it into the LRM-15s and you have the ER large lasers. Alright, so that wouldn't be a bad one. That's, to me, saying I'm purely firepower for longer ranges. You know, we're talking fire support mech. Then they had the 3FK, the Sword of Light Stalker. Replaces the heat sinks with double heat sinks, adds Artemis fire control for the LRM-10s, and replaces the SRM-6s with 4 SRM-2 streak systems. So, yeah. So we had... That's more or less a pretty good close-up mech. Now, that's one where the streak kind of, you're losing firepower per se, but you know, you're talking about being able to go longer periods with because the streaks are either fire or not fire. So you're going to be having a lot more turns of fire with them because the streaks, you know, not necessarily going to be cooking off there for you. Oh, that's a possibility. Alright, then we got the 3H variant. The Stalker, produced by Triad Technologies, is still in the 2638. Takes part, it removes the large lasers and LRM-10s and replaces them with 2 LRM-20s with extra ammo. So basically, yeah, you're going from being able to do 18 per arm side, let's say, and up to 20. So, yeah, you got a little boost in firepower. Instead of going with 4 weapon systems, now you're down to 2. So, but the odds are, with the more dice you're going to roll, the odds you're going to hit more. So, it's hard to say how that's going to balance out, unless it's a static target. Then it really falls into your favor. But if you really like the idea of having LRM-20s, this is kind of like a very slow moving catapult in a way. Alright, then we have the 4N, the modification of the Stalker. Increase the heat efficiency, removes one of the LRM-10s, adds 6 more heat sinks. So you're talking about 26 single heat sinks. And then you had, which kind of alleviates some of the heat problems that the Stalker had. So it's not as efficient at longer ranges, but it works better at really short ranges, because then you're able to fire off a lot of weapon systems. So that's kind of in its favor there. The 4P Papa 2928, the Stalker suffers. This is the one where they talk about knocking off full 10 tons of. So it's down to a 75-ton mech and removes a LRM-10 to do that. So, yeah, okay. So basically you're downgrading the mech a bit. And we got into the 5M, which we talked about. Then we have the 5S. outfitted with the recently rediscovered Starlink technology, the FedComs. Alright, so we replaced this is one that puts an XL engine in it, so you're, let's see if I can dig this one up, see if I can find it real quick. Here we go, 5S. Alright, so we got an XL engine, still a 5.35 mover, so it's slow with XL engines. So why don't you increase the speed on this thing? At least make it a 4.6. If you're going to put XLs in, at least try to bump up the speed some. I've never been a fan of XL engines on a really slow mech like this. But it has 2 LRM-10s, 2 large pulse lasers, 2 SRM-6s, and 4 medium lasers, and an anti-missile system. Yay! This mech suffers again from very short-range weapon systems. Yeah, you get the 2 LRM-10s, which go out to 21, but everything else, you're talking 10 or less. So this is an infighter with a mech that's slow and has XL engine, so it could probably die a nice glorious death really fast. So yeah, just curious. If you put make it a 4.6, yeah, you're gonna have to find where you're gonna put the, well, that's not a problem. Let's say you give it 16 double heat sinks and give it the ER large lasers instead of pulse lasers, then you can make it a 4.6 with XL engines with 16 double heat sinks. So it's basically the 3F, but moving a little faster because you put XLs on it. So there, and you got room enough to put on probably ferrofibrous on board. So there's an option right there. Okay, let's move on. Alright, the 6M attempts to make the shortcomings of the 5M. Yeah, there's a few of them. So in 3062, it drops the SRMs entirely, upgrades the LRMs to 15 rack. With Artemis, you know, that's what we discussed earlier, upgrades the ER large versions, adds an extra medium laser. More importantly, the LRMs are now protected with the case. Yes, finally, they say they're going to put case on board. Because the problem with the 5M is that you got, what, 4-5 tons of ammo on board this thing with nothing to protect it. And I can guarantee you the number of times I've seen mechs that just go nuclear because they got hit in the ammo rack. Can't count it the number of times over the 30 years of playing this game. Like to have case, especially in something like this. Alright, so that's actually an upgrade. Kind of like that one. Alright, the 7D Stalker, introduced by the FedCom. 3062, built on a standard chassis, engine for rugged durability. Yes, I like that idea. Its primary weapons are 2 ER-PPCs. Yes, now we're getting some distance on those things. Armed with 4 medium pulse lasers for close combat, backed up by 2 streak 4s. Okay, so now we're finally moving into the era where we got extra streaks. Upgrades, instead of streak 2s, now we're moving up to streak 4s and 6s. And then the lasers are, and the ER-PPCs are all linked to a targeting system. Yeah, there we go. So now you can hit a little bit better. You got heat dissipation, and you got 2 good weapon systems. So imagine this thing still has this 17 double heat sinks on board. Let's see if I can dig that one up real quick. 7D. Let me see here. Yes. Indeed. 7D has 18 double heat sinks, 2 streak 4s, 2 ER-PPCs, 3 medium pulse lasers, and a small laser. Okay. Still suffering from a little bit of problems with the armor. Let's see, we got, you know, I really would think that dropping off a heat sink for more armor. Drop it to 7. Leave it at 17. Get rid of the small laser, and replace the small laser with some case, because you're still carrying around ammo. Does this thing have case on board? Yes, still. Okay, it is protected by case. There we go. Good news. I missed that earlier when I was going through it, and it has a targeting pier. So yeah, that is not a bad mech. Personally, I'd rather replace some of those medium pulse lasers with and a heat sink, give it a little bit more armor, and actually upgrade the number of medium lasers on this mech. That would actually make it a better mech. And then we got the 7C BS. This variant is experimental, 3075. The main armament is a pair of ERPPCs, followed by a pair of MML5s. And yeah, there's an argument to be said no. And then we have 4 medium pulse lasers. And the problem I have with medium pulse lasers is that they're so short range. I'd rather have ER medium lasers instead. A small laser rounds out the weaponry to communicate with lance mates. Now this one has a C3 boosted slave, so it's case 2 protected. You know, those MMLs. Yeah, I don't think I have a write-up on that one. No, I don't have that one. But yeah, that's not a mech that really screams to me, hey, go take out and use. I like the idea that it has a C3 on board. Oh, that's nice. Then we have the 8S with the Illyrians. It has a new light fusion engine, so okay, not quite the problems that we have the XLs, but you know, it's still an XL engine, armed with 2 PPCs, ER, and brings a heavy Gauss rifle. Okay, that's really short. And finally, it carries 2 medium pulse lasers and 2 ER medium lasers. All right, so I'd rather have. Let's see if we got a write-up on the 8S. There we go. And light fusion engine, heavy Gauss rifle with 2 tons of ammo, which is only 3 tons of ammo with his 8 shots, 12 shots. And it's got the 2 ER PPCs in the arms, medium pulse lasers. Yeah, I'd rather have some ER medium lasers on board instead. But, you know, each is their own. It still suffers from the 216 points of armor versus the 263. So, and it carries around 16 double heat sinks, which is needed because with the 2 ER PPCs, you're creating 30 heat right there. And if you walk, you are sitting with that problem when it comes to heat. So you need the dissipation. Now, let's just discuss possibilities. Let's say you got a 3F. That's what you're going to be running around with. You got it from the 39 or the Succession Wars, and you got all the new technology, and we want to upgrade the thing. So, what would you do for a Klondike bar? Yeah. Basically, I would probably go with upgrading the 2 large lasers to ER large lasers. You still got the SRM6s, leave them there, and drop it down in the heat, drop it to 16 double heat sinks, add some more armor on board, still a 3.5, put maybe tag on board to help out, possibly, or if you're able to get a C3 system, put a slave on board that, say, with that option. Now, that's just your basic upgrade. So 16 double heat sinks. You have 4 medium lasers, 2 ER large lasers, 2 SRM6s, and maybe a C3 or a tag on board. And if you don't want to use a tag, you can max out the armor on board this thing and throw case on. Now, I was we had the discussion, I think, in the last video where they say tag now is a, you can do that, a kind of modification in the field instead of taking it to the factory. So that's directly from Catalyst. So that kind of alleviates some problems with this kind of stuff. So now you have a mech with case. You could protect it from exploding, blowing out the incomplete mech. You're just losing a torso. And then you have all the same weapons loadout, but you can dissipate 32 versus the 20 you had before. So you're doing better. Now, you can fire the 2 ER larges and the 2 LRM-10s, and if you don't move, you don't heat up. But if you do move, walk, you go up 1. If you run, you go up 2. You can do that running for 2 turns, then you have to shut, let's say, an LRM off, lose 10 points of damage to be able to cool off some. Then if you get into closer range, then obviously you're going to start throwing in the SRMs, the medium lasers, and that large laser, and it's basically ends up becoming the same thing again, where you got 1 large laser, and then you have your plethora of other weapon systems that you can throw into the mix. So, and then it's still the same thing with walking, go up 1, running, go up 2. So that is pretty much the one modification I would go with, because most likely you're going to have a 3F in the field that you had as a mercenary. So that's basically your type of modification. Upgrade some of the weapons. Now if you get into later on where you get your hands on some ER medium lasers, you could throw some ER medium lasers instead of the medium lasers, get a little bit more range, but they come with the extra heat, 2 points heat each. So that is a slight problem. It kind of throws off the whole mix. But then you're just looking at just firing SRMs and the ER mediums and not have to be able to fire your ER large. So that's a problem in itself. But we'll just have to worry about that when the time comes if you have that type of thing. But when it comes to the Stalker, I would just go with your typical 3F upgrade and leave it at that. Alright, so that is everything when it comes to the Stalker. I know this is a really long video, but the Stalker is kind of an iconic mech. It's one of those ones that individuals like to use. They probably have it in their arsenal. They have the miniature. So they're going to use it one way or the other. So that's pretty much what you're looking at. So hopefully you guys like this one. So like and subscribe, share with all your friends, and we will talk with y'all later. Elcrex out.